So in this video, we're going to talk about oil changes. And in particular, I want to answer the question that comes up a lot on Facebook backpacker groups, which is why change for oil on the Honda Win every 500 kilometers, right? So in Vietnam, you'll see backpackers changing every 500K. If you're riding a bike back home, be it a normal scooter, adventure bike, road bike, usually the service interval for oil changes is 5,000 to 10,000 kilometers. So what you need to know is the reason for this is there's different oil qualities and also different engine qualities. So very cheap oil is basically called mineral oil, then you got semi-synthetic, then you get fully synthetic. Our bikes like the Honda Win will burn through oil. So literally like a two-stroke motorbike, it uses oil as it's running, despite being a four-stroke. So the oil level will actually physically go down. So there is no point putting in a very expensive fully synthetic oil because this very expensive oil is just going to get burnt and go down, right? So what they do here is they put in cheap oil and they change it really, really regularly. So the actual reason for the 500 kilometer oil change is not because the oil is old or dirty, it's because the bike's physically going to run out of oil if you go beyond this service interval. That's how quickly it burns through oil. If we look at the Honda XR 150, this is not actually a Honda motorbike. It's actually made in China by basically Chinese Honda. It's a very different story from a Honda Win. Please don't get it confused. The XR is a good bike, but it also burns through oil. I've tested it. I've actually run the XR out of oil myself, and it goes between 3,000 and 4,000 kilometers, at which point it will physically run out of oil. So we recommend every 1,000 kilometers on the XR. The reason for this is if there is a problem where the bike is burning oil faster than usual or it has an oil leak, if you're putting in new oil every 1,000 kilometers, you're just topping up. So actually, if the bike has a problem, this problem is masked. Also, really, every 1,000 kilometers is a good chance to get the chain tightened and just a general basic maintenance. So if you're going into a shop for an oil change, they'll do a basic service of the bike as well. Now, let's think about this for a second. 500 kilometers, how far is that? It's not very far at all. Actually, in Vietnam, you tend to drive between 150 and 200 kilometers per day. So 500 kilometers is almost an oil change every 2 days of driving. That's a lot. So you're filling up gas on day one, gas on day two, and then on day three, you're doing gas and oil. Now consider that an oil change costs about $5. A backpacker who buys a Honda Win in the first place is usually someone traveling on a budget. It's not always the case, but generally speaking, that's why they have a Honda Win, right? So do you think that a backpacker traveling on a budget is going to be putting in $5 of oil every 3 days? No, they're not. So all of these posts you see advertising oil change every 500 kilometers, basically they're nonsense. What the backpacker is probably doing is servicing the engine a lot, breaking down, or maybe doing it every 1,000 kilometers, which is what we do with the XR. That's basically half the country. Is it plausible that a backpacker on a budget is going to change the oil halfway up the country? Yeah, I would say so. Are they going to do it every 2 days? Very unlikely. So now consider the Honda Blade semi-automatic, which is a real Honda. That's one of our main bikes. We also say every 1,000 kilometers change the oil. So why is this? Same story. It A, burns through oil. B, it's a semi-automatic, so the clutch wear is higher, and clutches sort of release debris into the oil faster than, say, a manual motorbike. And C, these bikes, the Honda Win, the XR, the Honda Blade, and nearly every single scooter in Vietnam does not have an oil filter. They actually have like an internal cleaning system. They are designed by nature to be relatively cheap, to use cheap oil, to burn oil, and just replace. Whereas a big bike back home, a BMW GS, a Honda CB500, this has got an oil filter, fully synthetic, expensive oil, and the oil change interval is going to be much, much further and longer, right? But every time you change the oil on these big bikes, you're supposed to do it with an oil filter, right? And the oil filter is there to catch debris in the oil. Talking about oil color, okay, this is a fun topic because I'll tell you from experience that oil turns black nearly immediately after putting it in the bike. So black oil is not an indicator of the oil being old. You could put it in, run it for probably 1 or 2 hours, and it will come out black. That's normal. What mechanics are actually looking for with old oil is a metallic-y looking oil. This is basically, again, debris getting into the oil, and also a texture change of the oil. Maybe the oil's got thinner or thicker. But the color, just saying the oil is black, is not an indication of oil age. I can tell you any normal person will have no idea how old the oil is just by looking at it. You need to have years and years and years of experience looking at oil coming out of bikes before you can even begin to make an assessment on the oil color. Oh, by the way, what does cause burning through oil? You can lose oil through piston rings being damaged, so you'll have white smoke coming out of the exhaust. That's really, really common. As long as you're topping up the oil and the bike has oil, then piston ring damage is no big deal. It's not going to stop your holiday. You can drive for thousands and thousands of kilometers with broken piston rings. And the other thing is just oil leaks. Now, nearly every single Honda Win will have an oil leak under the gearbox if you check it. Basically all of them. No big deal. This is absolutely normal. And even with real bikes, oil leaks can happen at any time. It's usually related to the bike getting hot and the gaskets sort of wearing out. And again, if you're topping up the oil, checking the oil, an oil leak is going to have absolutely no impact on your journey at all, other than the inconvenience of having to top up. So to wrap this video up, don't be alarmed by the regular oil changes of 1,000 kilometers. It's actually a super reliable and safe way to travel across the country. But also don't believe 500 kilometer oil changes, because it's nonsense. Who changes the oil after 2 days of driving? Nobody. Okay, and then finally, don't compare a bike back home with 5 to 10,000 kilometer service intervals with a bike in Vietnam that's going to burn through oil.
One maybe off-topic question, but a huge selling point in the backpacker market is I've changed the oil every 500 kilometers. I've changed the oil every 800.
That's what I was getting at with the Facebook ad thing, which is just nonsense.
Not changing the oil, that can be dangerous. But why do you think people believe the bike has been better maintained or the bike is more reliable just because you changed the oil?
This is a sensitive topic because it can upset people, backpackers in particular. If you are buying a Honda Win, right, as a generalization, it means you have absolutely no idea about motorbikes. If you knew what a motorbike should feel and drive like, you would not be on a Honda Win in the first place. You would sit on that bike and be like, hell no, and go rent a Honda XR or something. It's hard to describe how bad a Honda Win is. So I'm getting off topic here. The point is the people riding these bikes do not know anything about motorbikes. So the only piece of servicing that they really understand is oil changes, right? So if you have all these ads saying 500 kilometer oil change, oh, I understand what an oil change is, and therefore it's going to believe it. The other problem is it's a battle to the bottom. It's like a price war, right? If you see an advert where a Honda Win's been changed, the oil's been changed every 1,000 kilometers, and now you see another ad where the oil's been changed every 700 kilometers, you're going to gravitate towards the 700 kilometer one. Now you got another one that says 500 kilometers, and then frankly, you can't get any more ridiculous than 500 anyway, so that's sort of where the cap has got. 500 is 500, we'll leave it there, guys, that's every 2 days. But that's it. You get the backpacker who doesn't know about motorbikes, who is buying these bikes, they're just going to go for the lowest, the bike with the lowest sort of service intervals. I think that's where it comes from. Yeah, I'm pretty passionate about the backpacker market. I think there's nothing wrong with having a Honda Win and driving up the country and breaking down and enjoying this experience. I did it when I first came here. As long as you understand what this experience is and what you're doing. But where I get a bit frustrated is when it's falsely advertised that these are bikes that are going to work, bikes that drive like motorbikes, because they're just not. Which, again, if you understand that, they're a lot of fun, they're funny, but a bit like the Top Gear show, the guys are on crap bikes having fun, but they're not motorbikes, really.